Now Micah Miller trying to spring a pass ahead. Nobody in front of Jack Paling. Moves on with a blast and scores! Jack Paling with
We aren't giving up on chances, and we just got to bottom line execute.
Waits, passes in front, great save, Paluzzi, as she robs a Gopher in front of her, and that was number 8, Kippen Keller, on the grade A opportunity.
For me as a coach, that's the kind of D you're always looking for, because they don't grow on trees for sure, and he's done a really good job being a captain of a really young team this year.
It was a really cool thing to see for them to really appreciate what I've done on and off the ice.
to the far half wall. Jack Paling trying to play it into the corner. Now Paling turns, squares his body to the slot, sends it up high toward Jack. A shot makes its way through, and they score! Right along the blue line, Nick Paling was in front of the net, and St. Cloud State's got a lead here in the
And welcome back to the Den Husky Warming House podcast, fans. It is episode number 35. It is the Halloween special this evening. Today, in this week's episode, we have two current women's hockey team members joining us for our Healthy Strategy interview segment. There is plenty, again, to talk about on the CenterIceView News and Notes. But today, Noah, it is a day before Halloween. It feels like the end of November. I've heard people say it feels like almost the end of December. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it certainly doesn't have the same feeling that tomorrow the kids will be going out trick-or-treating. There's going to be get-togethers. It just doesn't have the same vibe as it normally would do. And I'm not sure if it's because it's 2020, so many things going on. I mean, we've resurrected the North Star logo, you can see to my right, but at the end of it, it just doesn't feel the same, doesn't it?
You know, I'm really glad that regardless, Halloween isn't tonight here in North Dakota, because it's almost a blizzard up here. I mean, we've got sleet/hail, whatever you want to call it. If you can pick up any of the sound within this audio recording, if you hear any like whooshing in the background, that is the wind actually outside our house. So the weather has not been kind to us, Nick. I feel like karma has finally caught up to me for the past couple episodes where you said, man, it's cold and really crappy in the Twin Cities. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's sunny and 85 here, Nick, so it's not too bad. But, you know, life has been all right. My dog is doing, for those of you who remember from a couple episodes back, my dog was kind of on the brink of extinction, and right now is actually probably doing better than he was 3 weeks ago. So I don't know if like my dog got COVID. I have no idea, but the dog is doing healthy. On the flip side, my grandpa, who's 91 in Alexandria, made a trip to the ER last night. So a bit of highs and lows there. Another high that I forgot to mention on last week's show, Nick, I finally got into the school I was anticipating to get accepted into. So I start in January, and I finally secured my apartment today. So I will be moving in December out from this studio or whatever you want to call it. So been a mix of a week. I don't know, but like you mentioned, this Friday feels just kind of dreary, kind of windy, kind of blah, especially with the end of the World Series. Obviously, you know, we're kind of losing some of our sports really quickly here and don't really have a whole lot to replace it. So anything interesting in your world besides probably having the most likes and retweets of any tweet you've ever on it because of your North Stars birthday pumpkin logo back there?
Pretty close. You know, I did indeed secure a new position within the bank this week. So that sort of rough patch there where there was a lot of uncertainty finally is resolved. So nice to have that behind me. I will actually be doing some producing for the company as well. I'm going to be dipping into some of their strategic media as well, just to kind of practice some of my skills and Sorry, go ahead.
What skills?
I'm still trying to work on those. But anyway, at the end of it, another thing that we're learning, kind of a downside really is, so every spring there is what's called the Broadcast Educators Association, or the BANAB show that's held in Las Vegas. It does sound like for the second straight year in the spring that will become mostly a virtual thing and not a travel to Vegas, where there's plenty of speakers. There's, of course, just being able to go to Vegas and kind of get away for a weekend, or, you know, or maybe a somewhat extended weekend. So that's disappointing if that indeed holds true. But other than that, it's not been too crazy. The weather has been, like I said, pretty decent. but not fantastic nonetheless. Speaking of things not fantastic, Noah, I want to do our gripe session, and of course, being that now this podcast is older than I am, I'm having a memory blur. So if you can jog those who will follow us what that segment is called, I'll let you take the first gripe there.
Yeah, Goal Line Gripes, of course, is our segment where Nick and I every week bring a gripe to the table and talk about it. So here's our little intro, whatever you want to call it. Goal Line Gripes. What the? And that's going to start us off for some Goal Line Gripes, Nick, here, Nick. And mine, it's going to be the Blake Snell incident. I'm going to go right for the teeth on this one. Okay, so it's a gripe. I'm going to kind of qualify both sides of this. First of all, in principle, when it comes to me watching baseball, if your pitcher is, unless the situation absolutely calls for it, where you're saying, especially if you're playing in the NL and you've got 2 runners on, and you've got 0 outs, and you come up to the pitcher spot and it's the 6th inning and you're down by 1, yeah, pull your pitcher. Obviously, designated hitter stuck through the entire league across the board, and obviously the World Series, so Blake Snell did not affect the rotation here. But in terms of what I'm trying to say here is, if you're under 90 pitches, 90, 95 pitches, for me, I say you go until the runner goes on. So obviously Blake Snell, for those of you who don't know, was pulled, I believe, in the 6th inning, right? With a runner on. It was a hard pull, basically, with, I believe, 73 pitches. That he was kind of at, which is pretty low for a pitcher in terms of pulling him. So a lot of people were upset because, of course, St. Cloud State product Nick Anderson came in relief and gave up a couple of big runs to Mookie Betts and the Dodgers en route to their first World Series since 1988. And people were saying, well, manager Kevin Cash should not have pulled Blake Snell at that particular moment because he was wheeling and dealing. He really was. In principle, I totally agree with that. Here's where I have a problem with blaming Cash on this one. Number one, since 2019, the Tampa Bay Rays, I believe, have only had, it was either 4 or 5 pitchers go beyond the 6th inning in a game. So the philosophy, being the team with the lowest payroll in Major League Baseball, that philosophy, and knowing that if you're in that pitching core, you know that when the 6th inning rolls around, you're probably done. That is the philosophy that got them to the World Series. The other thing is Blake Snell averages less than 6 innings per start. But here's the thing that I really want to defend. Obviously, the move backfired. We can admit that. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's Blake Snell's fault. I don't think it's really Nick Anderson's fault. And I don't think it's Cash's fault for one simple reason. You cannot, especially against a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers of 2020, win a ball game scoring 1 run and having that only run come in the 1st inning. For me, that's the deciding factor. You can talk about Blake Snell wheeling and dealing, but the real question mark is, where did the Rays offense go? And there wasn't a whole lot of offense for the Rays to speak of, because that's kind of how they played. They kind of chipped and clawed at the lead. But I know you disagree with me a little bit on this one, Nick, but I don't know. It obviously backfired, but from every game until Game 6 of the World Series, Blake Snell, once he hit third batters, or was not even allowed that lengthy leash past 6 innings. So should Blake Snell really have been that surprise? And unfortunately, Nick Anderson just didn't get the job done. That's just what it is to me. It's like hockey, where you got a goalie who's playing red hot and then doesn't get a bounce all of a sudden. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Should I go Stephen A. Smith on this one? I'm tempted to. First of all, everything that you've said, there's no denying, the trends, the history of the way that Kevin Cash has approached his pitching staff. There's no question about that. But it's the MFN World Series here. Here's why I don't understand him being pulled at that moment. Number one, he's at 73 pitches. Number two, he was making even Mookie Betts swing and deal on his pitches. Mookie Betts was, I guess, the next batter. So he only saw 2 times through the rotation, and that was it. He never got a crack at number 3. But Mookie Betts, and this was a stat that even Joe Buck brought up, was one of the highest slugging batter against right-handers, but one of the lowest against left-handers. To me, that was the second hit for the Dodgers in the game up until that point. Why then. My question is, why at least let him pitch to at least the most dangerous A hitter into one of the smartest and fastest base runners in the ballgame? Again, you talk about it was an infield hit that barely, it didn't even make it out the outfield when Mookie Betts just timed a beautiful hit and run. It was basically almost like a half squeeze play. And so to me, could you really argue that it's all one person's fault? No, this is, it's baseball, it's a team sport, and you're 100% correct on the fact that you cannot win a World Series against any team. Nonetheless, the Dodgers, who do have a very potent offense on one run, there's no question about that. I just wonder I honestly, to me, he needed to have seen at least one more batter in Mookie Betts, because now I believe that was one out that he had, or it was either one out or maybe zero, but at least get through Mookie. And now it's a 1 or 2 outs. You have the least dangerous player off of, out of the rotation. He's back in the dugout. He can't hurt you there. Then maybe you make the switch. But again, and that's the thing, is when you know your offense is struggling, then you have to ride your hot pitcher, to me. So I don't know. It's going to be probably the most broken down baseball play maybe of the next couple of years. I understand historical trends, but in the playoffs, when you have your season on the line and then the big trophy standing in front of you, sometimes you have to look at what's in front of you and not worry about the past. Now, I get it. Things got you there, but you also have to read what's in front of you. And I don't know. I think there was a little bit of over-managing there by Kevin Cash there, taking out Blake Snell.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that statistically, like you mentioned, Mookie Betts, his best pitch is right-handers with fastballs, and Nick Anderson throws a fastball 64% of the time. So, I mean, the matchup probably wasn't I think that's even more what it comes down to. It's not so much that you replace Blake Snell. It's your matchup following that. He really played in a Mookie Betts' favor, like you mentioned. I know the Rays, they're a team that is pretty anxious to get into their bullpen, obviously, as we just touched on. But nonetheless, congratulations to the Dodgers. A very hard-fought, well-won 2020 World Series. We're not even going to touch the Justin Turner stuff on the side of that. But other than that, congratulations to them. Nick, that was a long one. So what's your gripe?
That was a short one. It's a short one. It's the Canadian hockey media. And here's why I say that. So Toronto, no question, has a history of being, kind of almost like a celebrity magazine type when it comes to hockey. Like they're all about it. There's even one little rumor, and it could be one random egg character on Twitter that throws out a trade rumor. All of a sudden, Toronto Star, not to say that they're doing this, but just naming one publication out there, you'll have a full run-on after a practice asking Phil Kessel if, this guy's going to be traded, or if this guy's a terrible captain. And what's happening right now is Vancouver has suffered quite a bit of player movement away from their roster that got them to the second round. And the Canadian media are tearing this team apart, and they're even asking the question, has this team taken a step back? And they haven't even played a game yet. We're not even through the off season yet. And I understand, you lost Jacob Markstrom. That's a big loss. And they've lost a couple other players to the Flames. It's almost like you go from the BC to Alberta, and you have this almost changing of the guard. But they're predicting essentially that Vancouver is almost going to be a non-playoff team, and this team hasn't even taken the ice yet in 2020, 2021. And it's that mentality, and it shows how much they love the game. It's just like us in the NFL down here in the U.S., where any little bit of news or tidbit, we want to jump on it, dissect it. The Canadian media are just like that, but they're just even worse because they just go off of the worst possible stuff. And again, for Vancouver, they're definitely a playoff team. They've got good replacements. Again, you got Braden Holtby back. You've got a really good backup in Thatcher Demko. And this team still has a lot of firepower up front with JT Miller, Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson, and one of the best young defensemen coming in Quinn Hughes. So this team's going to be fine. I think it's an overreaction, but I guess things are getting bored up above north of the border when, really we don't know when the NHL season will start. Again, rumor is January 1. It's not a for sure date, and it could be pushed back, but sign of the times there. No, that's my gripe.
Maybe we have to teach Mick Hatton to be a little more aggressive with some St. Cloud. Yeah, I would probably say my biggest gripe is the fact that you should bring that pumpkin on every episode, because I keep staring at it instead of you, and that's a welcome change. Anyway, we're gonna
probably for a lot of viewers too, honestly. So
sorry. Anyway, we're gonna move on to our two-line fan trivia segment. We did have another winner this week, so let's jump into it right now.
Two-Line Fan Trivia is your chance to win Follow the Huskies Warming House podcast on Twitter at Warming House Den. A new question will be asked every week. Be the first to tweet us the correct answer. Winners will be mentioned on the show, as well as a chance for prizes and more. One question, one answer, one winner. It's two-line trivia.
All right, Nick, our two-line fan trivia segment. Of course, last week's guest, Stephen McDonald, head coach of the women's hockey team, was part of our trivia question and also obviously our guest, and he now leads the St. Cloud State women's hockey team. Before him, Miami, Ohio hockey assistant coach Eric Rude was at the helm of the St. Cloud State women's hockey team, earning 13 wins in the 2015-16 season. In the late 1990s, Eric Rude was a standout player for which college hockey team? Nick, I feel like you got this one in the back. You have no idea? You don't know?
I have no idea on this one, and I probably should know this, shouldn't I?
Are you being for real?
I'm being for real.
Okay, well, we'll guess.
Can I take a hint? Was it the U of M?
No, it is not the U of M. They are in the NCHC, though. I'll give you that. I'll give you one more just for fun.
Well, the U of M is not in the NCHC, so they're in the Big Ten. But since we got, was that Duluth?
No, it's Colorado College, actually.
CC, okay.
Yeah, so for winning for the 7th time on the leaderboard, Brody Falconer 8-1 by a minute. Another close one, Nick. We've had a couple of these now. Good to see participation. Eric was a 2-time team captain and 2-time WCHA Defensive Player of the Year for the Tigers in the late 90s. So thanks to everyone who participated, and we're excited to give away some more Huskies Warming House hats. Hey, the fact that we've had some repeat winners means that we still have a lot of these hats left, and they're ready to be given away. You can only win them right now through trivia, though. So, Nick, is that... I'm surprised you didn't know that, to be honest with you. He's a pretty good defenseman, to be honest with you. I think like 1997 and 1998, he was quite the stud on the back end there. Maybe that's just kind of the trend with St. Cloud State coaches, huh? You've got him, you've got Mike Gibbons, who was a pretty good defensive player at Bemidji. Dave Shyak coming in now, pretty good player as well. I don't know what it is about these St. Cloud State defensive players, but the crease in front of David Rennick and, of course, goaltender Emma Paluzny now for St. Cloud State women's hockey, looking pretty solid, if you ask me.
I would say so too, and yet, yeah, Colorado College was not a team I really followed. It's more Gophers, maybe the Bulldogs, certainly just North Dakota because again of the rivalries that they had. Wisconsin for sure, but yeah, CC wasn't a huge, just target of my interest back in the day, and just not a whole lot of coverage. Never saw that much, so yeah, unfortunately, just wasn't something I paid attention much to. I
really loved their white silky uniforms as a kid. I love that, the cool logos. And of course, they're slated to have their new rink hopefully open in the next year or two with their new facility there. But we're going to open up our regular segment here on the Huskies Warming House podcast, our Center Ice View News and Notes.
CenterIceView News and Notes. CenterIceView provides you with the best coverage of St. Cloud State Huskies hockey, from game notes, recaps, photos, and more. Go to CenterIceView.com.
And we're going into this week's Center Ice View News and Notes. Again, the big competition happening on campus is the COVID Cup with the women's hockey team. We've had a couple of updates. They already had the week 1. Week 2 just happened as well. So we need to fill in our viewers and our listeners with what happened with those scores. Were there any trades as well? So no, I'm going to kick it to you to kind of give us all an update on what's happening with this year's COVID Cup with the St. Cloud State women's hockey team.
Yeah, if you're interested in the COVID Cup and learning a little bit more about our women's hockey players, check out the COVID Cup draft, which is, of course, up on our YouTube page. We were happy to be a part of that and happy to keep following it as week 1, like you mentioned, finished last Friday. Team Cornelius did beat Team Newland by a score of 4-3, and Allie Cornelius had 2 goals. Claire Hickey and Taylor Lind each tallied a goal in the win for Team Cornelius. And then Team Wesloh beat Team Geyer by a score of 3-2. Hannah Bates had 2 tallies in that one, as well as Laura Kluge for Team Wesloh to take the victory there. Tight hockey games, gotta like that right off the gate. And a couple of trades, like you mentioned. Obviously, each team puts out a player essentially that is eligible within the trade block, or the trade pool, if you will. And the team with the lowest amount of goal totals and the lowest record picks up the first pick in that trade pool, and then it goes in reverse order. So Lena Meletinos moved over to Team Geyer. She'll stay on that team for the remainder of the COVID Cup. Addie Scribner, of course, Ohio State product last year, a sophomore this year, moves over to Team Newland. Adela Skrdlova to Team Wesloh, and Nicole Ness to Team Cornelius. The big trend in that one, Nick, all incoming players, either freshman or sophomore, that were traded in that group, and pretty nice to see. Some of the returning players get on the board in that tournament. Shows me that they're comfortable, shows me that they're ready to go, and it carried into week 2 as well. Nick, Team Newland pretty much buried Team Wesloh by a score of 3-0. Of course, Kenzie Wylie, our defensive guest on this show today, on Team Newland, and Team Wesloh, obviously captained by McKenna Wesloh, couldn't find the back of the net on that one. So it looks like Kenzie Wylie might have been the better player of the two this week. But Team Cornelius beat Team Geyer, of course, by a score of 4-2 in the second matchup today as well. So Team Geyer has yet to win a game in this tournament. Nick, anything that you can kind of gather from those scores before we move ahead?
Not really. Again, it's inter-squad. The big thing is, again, it's a smaller ice surface. Again, remember when they play at home here, it's not quite full Olympic, but pretty. So their players are used to a wider sheet of ice. When you break things down, the game changes a bit. So it's definitely going to be different, especially if it's incoming players as well. And you're also trying to learn. There's a lot of new faces here coming to the squad that you have to develop some chemistry with and learn how to play with each other. So not really, at the end of it, and just trying to look and see what the rest of the tournament holds.
Yeah, of course, you can hear a lot more about that information, obviously, on the St. Cloud State website, as well as at SCSU Huskies _WHK. Check out the women's hockey page and give them a follow. Speaking of hockey in the Granite City area, the first open practice for the men's hockey team occurred today, and as they say, quote, sources say all of the incoming freshmen for St. Cloud State were indistinguishable from the veterans, a great sign for the Huskies' depth this season, end quote, if you know the inside joke on that one. But really, you did get a chance to, we had 250 people in attendance, and they said that the lines look pretty good. Kind of hard to pick out what players were who in some cases, but that's honestly a good thing if your first line through your fourth line is looking really good. And of course, the other big news out of men's hockey to relate to that, their captains have been announced. The captain will be Sartell native Spencer Meyer, getting ready for, I believe it's his senior season, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Junior season.
Yeah, I can't keep anything straight today. And our assistant captains, of course, there are going to be 3 of them. Is it Seamus Donahue? I think it's Seamus, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Because I always get that one, always trips me up. But anyway, of course, a Michigan Tech transfer, he should bring some stability to that back end, of course, with the departure of Jack Ashawn with the Boston Bruins. Illinois native Kevin Fitzgerald will wear an assistant captain letter, and he's going to be our guest for next week, so really excited to bring him on and talk about that. And Luke Jaycox will be the other player wearing an A. I believe he's coming off surgery, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
2 surgeries, yeah.
So, Nick, we kind of talked a little bit pre-show about Spencer Meyer, kind of maybe not the routine pick that we had expected, especially as a junior. But what can you kind of gather from both the open practice and the captain namings?
First of all, open practice, I mean, it's good for everybody, really. It's one little sense of normalcy in a world that's definitely, upside down, to say the least. Good for the guys to be able to play in front of some fans. I mean, we still don't know what St. Cloud State University is going to do once they get back from the pod in Omaha, as far as will they allow fans in, and if they do, how much. So, it might be a rare opportunity where they do get to get in front of fans, and maybe the only time this season. So, and for the fans, maybe the only time they get to see him in person. It's still too early. When we're still missing a very key piece of Etienne Mietnin. His visa was approved last week, and the big update is he should be receiving his visa this upcoming week, which means as soon as he does, he should be en route to St. Cloud State's campus to actually join the team, participate, and get him up to speed. Again, he is the 4th-round pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs in this past draft. A guy that is supposed to be, kind of the offensive firehouse coming in to the squad. So it's not quite there yet. It's still too early, and I myself haven't had a chance to see them live yet either, to see a practice. And then, I think there's more yet to be known. But on the captains, I think the biggest thing is not with Spencer Meyer. And yeah, he's a local kid, sure. And he definitely struggled last season in the back, and he was relegated from the second to the third pairing. But again, it's how you respond to it. And I think he really, just took back his game. He simplified it. He didn't try to do too much. I thought at times before he was brought down from the second to the third pairing that he was trying to do maybe a little bit too much. but it shows if you have a high character person in your locker room that you can take those adversities and just kind of power through and still be a leader. Both on and off the ice. But Seamus Donahue, again, the transfer, getting an A when you haven't even skated, that's pretty telling about somebody's character. And, when we talked with Brett Larson before the summer, he talked about when you're recruiting, that leadership is a big thing when they recruit people. And it obviously with Seamus Donahue coming over as a transfer and getting that A in what will be his 5th senior season, pretty telling of what the kind of character person they're bringing in as well off the ice.
Definitely. I did want to correct you on one thing just because it was really more from my own memory as opposed to probably both of our memories because we seem to forget a lot of things. VT Miettinen, a 6th round pick, not a 4th round pick of Toronto.
6th round pick. My apologies.
That's totally cool. I'm not trying to show you up, I promise. Number 168 and should be a pretty good for Toronto if he's everything that the scouts say that he is. Of course, the NCHC should be slated to start Tuesday, December 1st in the bubble/pod in Omaha, and VT Miettinen should be ready and rocking to go with the team. In other league news, the OHL is slated to start on February 4th, and the AHL is started to slate on February 5th. Of course, the OHL is having some question marks about whether or not to allow body checking too, so that's kind of an interesting discussion. My vote is definitely no, keep body checking because that's how hockey works. But anyway, moving on to our only personnel news related to the National Hockey League. Defenseman Trevor Daley at age 37 has officially retired and is joining the Penguins front office in a player development and coaching role. Of course, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Pens in 2016 and 2017, spent 16 seasons in the National Hockey League, 11 with Dallas, and then cups of coffee in Pittsburgh, Chicago, and finishing in Detroit. 89 goals, 220 assists in 1,058 games. And the biggest one that sticks out for me is I remember in that first Stanley Cup final, of course in 2016 they obviously won the cup, and Trevor Daley actually wasn't playing in the cup final because he had shattered, I believe, his foot or his leg, and he was in a boot. And of course, the big honorary thing when you have the Stanley Cup come out is obviously the captain, Sidney Crosby, goes and hoists the cup, and then it's always a question of who's going to be the one that's going to get the cup next. I seem to remember who was it for the Chicago Blackhawks all those years ago? Number 44, that Kimmo Timonen.
Kimmo Timonen, yeah.
Yeah, that he ended his career being the second guy to get the Stanley Cup from Captain Jonathan Toews, and that was the finish to his career. But for Trevor Daley, that was a significant moment because his mother, Trudy, was in the hospital and battling cancer at the time, and she died 9 days later after he won the Cup in 2016. So, one of the lasting images for her is seeing her son lift the Stanley Cup for the first time. So pretty incredible. In a subsequent move, the assistant GM, Jason Karmanos, was fired from Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is 2-9 since 2018 in the playoffs. Of course, they were bounced this year by the lowest seed Montreal at number 24. So maybe getting some of that veteran and playoff experience in that front office. So, Nick, anything to add about Trevor Daley? Obviously a pretty good player and a guy that he didn't play for too many teams. Was pretty much a fixture in Dallas for a number of years, and I always really liked his game. Was a really reliable second pairing defenseman, if you ask me.
Smooth skater as well. Trevor Daley, definitely one of the better skating defensemen, especially when he was with Dallas. He was a guy that you really had to look out for, especially in the breakout pass, because he could do it just as much with his feet as he could with his stick. Very smart IQ player, especially on the back end as well. And this is a trend that we're seeing, especially with defensemen, is that you retire and then you end up kind of becoming, you go into a front office, but more specifically, as you mentioned, it's a player development / coaching role. Andrew Burnett did that with the Minnesota Wild as well when he retired. It's a very, kind of an emerging trend with retiring players just to go into coaching right away. And Trevor Daley's always been a good guy. He was a leader in Dallas, was a big part of that leadership group in Pittsburgh, win those back-to-back Stanley Cups. And I'm pretty sure with Pittsburgh, when you get called into the front office, especially if you just retire, it's quite the honor. So good for him and good for the organization that's certainly looking to ignite their spark that they've had the last couple of seasons, especially with some not so recent playoff success that they enjoyed in the last couple of seasons.
Absolutely, Nick. Moving on to only 3 more topics that we have here in our Center Ice Views and Notes. Our only other quick one here, Travis Roy, of course, Boston University product, passed away this week at age, I believe it was 45. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But, of course, well known for 11 seconds into his first ever college hockey game, was hit from behind into the boards and was paralyzed, and has really done a lot for the game. Of course, wrote a book titled 11 Seconds and has really done a lot for the game, honestly probably more off the ice, or more that maybe would have ever actually happened had he not been paralyzed, unfortunately. But Nick, just really sad news to hear, but obviously he was a very strong inspiration for all those in the hockey world who knew him. Anything you have to add about this one?
Well, first of all, it's a terrible loss. And you talk about, dealing with an adversity that, I can't imagine being in a position where you get to suit up for, your first game, and it ends 11 seconds, and it's not just ending, a part of, your athletic career. Your whole life and your whole way of doing things is changing. And around Minnesota, and you probably know the name Jack Jablonski, again, Benoit St. Margaret. It's not quite the 11 seconds, but you talk about somebody who has taken a significant challenge and it has been such an inspiration off the ice. Jack Jablonski has done the same thing. And you talk about how closely knit the hockey community is. And, these guys are a symbol of what that can bring, and how, we can basically bring together and do something for the greater good. And again, you talk about, such a young age, and having to, kind of be that face of, I'm not going to let this, overcome me. I'm going to, just try to, go with it, but I'm going to make sure that I want others to feel like, this is the end of everything for me, even though I can't imagine, the moments after it happens. And granted, I've never been in that situation, but I imagine you feel it almost instantaneously, that there's got to be some emotions there, and to be able to be the shining light, for a lot of folks out there when, this, a situation like that could be, so dark, it is quite inspiring. So tough loss for the hockey community. Yes.
Definitely. Also, as you mentioned, Jack Jablonski, a member of the Los Angeles Kings organization as well, too, in kind of a development / front office role. So really happy to see him moving on in the hockey world. One person, Nick, in our next and really big deep dive of this segment that won't be moving on in the hockey world, and within good reason, is Mitchell Miller. Of course, released by the University of North Dakota and the Arizona Coyotes, was a 4th round, number 111th round pick of the 2020 draft. If you don't really particularly know the story, the nitty and gritty of it is essentially that there was a younger man that Mitchell and another friend essentially bullied with some racial taunts and some, I guess the best way to put it is hazing. I mean, some of the details we're not going to talk about in this podcast, but if you can find the story and talk about, some of the things that him and this other person did to this poor kid, just appalling, honestly. So kind of moving through that, as I have to kind of compose myself, because honestly it just angers me so much. First, Mitchell Miller essentially wrote an apology letter to all 31 NHL teams, essentially stating that he was going to be better. And in the beginning, the Arizona Coyotes kind of stood by him a little bit, but then they backed off, of course, with also the pressure of the Hockey Diversity Alliance, who just split with the National Hockey League, really saying that the NHL should be doing the right thing here, because Mitchell Miller never apologized to this kid. He's never apologized to the family or anything like that. It's good on the University of North Dakota to make this move. Obviously, racism has no place, not only in the game of hockey, but anywhere in the world. It's good on the Arizona Coyotes for making this move. The one caveat that I'm going to kind of touch on here before I kick it over to you, Nick, and this is kind of a weird statement to say, so I want you listeners to kind of bear through this a little bit. I hope that Mitchell Miller at some point gets a chance to play college hockey and NHL hockey again, under this caveat. I hope that if he ever does continue on with his professional hockey career, it's because of this. It's because he sits down with this young man, he sits down with his family, and he really takes time to sit down and go through that process and that reconciliation that needs to happen. This is not an overnight, this is not a John Tortorella statement where Tort says something kind of crazy and comes back the next day and says, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean that. This is years and years of abuse, torture, racism, and I hope that at the end of the day, Mitchell Miller, he's near my age, I'm 24 years old, he still has a lot of his life to live, and he's got a lot of people out there right now, and damn rightfully so, that hate his guts right now, as they should. It's wrong. It's so effed up what he did. I hope he learns from it. I hope at some point whether it's a year from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, he finds a way to be better, you know, and whether that brings him through professional hockey, but at the end of the day makes him be a better person and has him have the wherewithal to learn from this and talk with the people that need talking to and do what he has to do and what he should be doing. That's my hope for this. But right now, in this moment, Nick, I'm pissed off, as is everybody else, and good on the University of North Dakota and good on the Arizona Coyotes.
Well, first of all, I think most of what you had just explained was well said. It's really a loss for both people if you look at it. As far as, you know, Mitchell Miller, you know, a very bright-looking future, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm not trying to pity persons per se, but can you imagine having something relatively recent in your past, relatively, and all of a sudden it could be brought up again, and all of a sudden what that has done has literally almost pulled the rug from underneath you, and that bright future you had is now gone. It's 100% the right move from North Dakota as well as the Arizona Coyotes, and 100%, you know, what he has done is atrocious. It is inhuman, and it deserves every bit of spite that he gets right now. But I like what you said, and here's kind of my caveat. It's a little bit different than yours, and that is, where do we go as a society from here? And here's why I say that. We're seeing a trend of where things would have happened in the past, and granted, every situation is unique, which means it's got its own set of circumstances, and there's a very individual context around each individual story that comes out, right? So you can't blanket a consequence or a structure on any of this. It doesn't work, right? But based on what we know on this particular instance, I do agree with the actions taken by both Arizona as well as North Dakota. I'm concerned, though, about the well-being not only of the young man that he is accused of, and I shouldn't say accused, but had done those terrible things to, but of Mitchell Miller. And I know it sounds weird, right? It sounds like, well, he's a terrible human being. There's no question he did some terrible things. I also understand that, you know, first of all, you have to, as I mentioned, you know, what is, when you say reconciliation, the only thing that I'm trying to just take a step back here is, as a society, what is satisfactory that makes us say, yes, he has reconciled with this? You know, what do we need to see? What does he have to do, maybe, for us to really believe that he has gone through, you know, the process? Whether it's apologize, does he need to take some classes? Does he need to do some community service? And you're absolutely right, and this is the big thing. He should have in the future an opportunity some way, somewhere, to suit up to play college hockey and also to have the opportunity to play in the NHL. People forget, and this is a general statement too, in crime, not just the victim's family is affected, but also, you know, the person that gets convicted too. You know, there's a whole palette of lives that are upended by these decisions, right? And you don't want to, you know, I guess say eye for an eye per se, but there does need to be, you know, the right consequences for the actions. In this particular situation, the right ones were handed down. The question is now, where does he go from here? How does he actually get an opportunity to get back to what should have been a bright future now, a little bit later? When is that going to be? What's appropriate? I don't know, but I think that's something to reconcile. But again, it's a terrible situation for everybody involved, especially the young man who had to endure all that. And you just hope that, you know, there's peace in some of this, as well as, you know, hopefully both parties can, you know, rectify it and move forward with their lives.
It's going to take some time, that's for sure. You know, something that also took a little bit of time here, we do have a little bit of top 5 Halloween trios to talk about after our Healthy Scratch interview segment for a little bit of fun here on this Halloween special. And another thing that, again, took some time, took 2.5 years in the making. Our last segment, very quickly here on the CenterIceView News and Notes, the Dallas Stars revealed their new third alternate jersey. If you haven't got a chance to check them out, definitely do that. But they're pretty much black uniforms with no striping on the pants and 2 pretty solid neon green, essentially, kind of almost glow in the dark neon green, popping stripes essentially on the arms. I don't really know how else to describe them. They kind of look like something that, somebody out of NHL 20 or NHL 21, some kid might have made for their club team. But, I saw these jerseys, right? They're brash, they're bold, they're whatever you want to call them. They're there. I mean, you can't miss them for sure. And of course, they show the jerseys essentially for the most of the pictures that they've put up there in low light, so that neon really pops. And I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, this neon is gross. They're not the Oregon Ducks. What are they doing? And I was kind of in that at first. I was like, wow, these are they might be a little bit much. But then I kind of got to see the pictures of when they had some of the regular lights, kind of like how we have our podcast lights on us that have just that bright white light, which is how NHL arenas are lit. And I was kind of looking at it and I'm like, you know what? On the ice, these might honestly look okay. I think back to 2016. I think back to the Team North America jerseys with that kind of flashy orange. And nobody particularly had a problem with that one. I don't really know if anybody loved them, but I don't think anybody hated them. It's unique. It's different. The Dallas Stars, obviously they're kind of trying to stay away from the Minnesota North Star ties and kind of do their own thing, but still keep kind of that victory green, neon green, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I think they're all right, Nick. What do you think?
Hot take. I love them, honestly. Honestly, it's different, right? And I like the contrast, especially because, like I said, it's the black and they have the neon green. They pop, like you said. And against the white ice, they're really, really going to show. It's something different, right? I think if there's one thing that the NHL hasn't done so well. I mean, you talk about the NFL when you have Color Rush Week, we're on Thursday, and it's not terribly all crazy, but it's just enough of a difference that says, yeah, that's cool. I love when the Vikings do the full purple and the yellow and the numbers. I think that looks awesome. For Dallas, yeah, it's not maybe their full color scheme, but black was a part of their color scheme. They just emphasized and said, hey, we're going to do something different and we're going to stand out. I love it. I honestly think they look really, really good. And it's something that I think the NHL should entertain a little bit more. Now, going back to, I want to touch on this a little bit, and this is a little bit off topic, but for the folks who think that the Dallas Stars own the rights to the North Stars logo is actually incorrect. The NHL does. So if Minnesota actually wanted to somehow, some way use the North Star logo, they could. It's the NHL that makes that decision. The problem is, how do you put a storyline there that kind of, for the fans make it more sense that says, hey, wait, you were down there, now you're back up here again? Like, what the heck? So that's really the only challenge. But again, I like the jerseys. It's something new, and I love the colors. They pop. They're cool.
It's kind of like Canadian media. We haven't even seen them on the ice yet, so let's give them a chance, honestly.
Exactly.
Of course, you have to remember the NHL does stipulate you have to wear alternate jerseys at least roughly 12 to 15 times in any given season. It does not have to be during your home games, as black uniforms, your darker colored uniforms normally are your home jerseys in the National Hockey League. You can petition and request for a team to wear their away jerseys at home while you wear your alternate jerseys on the road as well. So interesting to see where the Dallas Stars take that one and those uniforms. But Nick, we're going to move on to our Healthy Scratch interview segment. This one was a lot of fun. Two women's hockey players in senior defenseman Kenzie Wylie and senior forward McKenna Wesloh of the St. Cloud State women's hockey team. They were both a blast to talk to, and we're going to jump right into that one right now.
With a new guest joining every week, it's a lineup chock full of players, coaches, fans, and more. This week's special guest is the Healthy Scratch.
And joining us for our Healthy Scratch interview segment, two current women's hockey team members. We have with us Kenzie Wylie and McKenna Wesloh. Ladies, thanks again for joining us. And how are things going this afternoon?
Pretty good. I just had a busy day, so I'm relaxing at home now, excited for the interview. So it's been a good day.
Yeah, I didn't have class today, which is pretty nice. Got some extra sleep in, and then had practice, and then was doing some homework, and now this.
Nick, I can feel your envy a little bit from being 34 years old and having a full-time job. Do you remember what it was like back in those college days to be able to kick back and say, yeah, I don't have class today. It's not a big deal.
Not really, because, I had 6 a.m. practice and classes all the way through. Then I still work. So, get wrecked anyway. So yeah, no, I never stand still, man. That's just how I am.
Well, we're excited to have you both here. Of course, McKenna Wesloh, officially our actual first repeat guest on the Huskies Warming House podcast, going all the way back, ladies and germs, to episode number 3. But let's kind of go back a little bit, not too far, to last week, Tuesday, October 20th, the start of the draft of the COVID Cup for women's hockey. Of course, we were all a part of that, kind of an intramural, essentially, I don't know, squad scrimmage, whatever you want to call it. We broke it down a little bit in our last episode, so listeners, you can check that out. From your guys' perspective, one, how is that tournament going, and how excited are you for something maybe a little bit different, especially with everything that's so uncertain? Maybe McKenna, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think it's really good for us. I mean, at least for me, I'm super competitive, so it's kind of weird not playing in games and not getting that, like game type energy and vibe. And I know for the first game, we were all super excited. Like, some of us dressed up and went to the rink and treated it like the real deal. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, no, the draft and everything has been super fun. It, kind of feels like a day in the life of a pro. It's kind of fun. But yeah, we're just having a good time with it. So
Yeah, I know that we really wanted some competition right now. We were having competition days at practice where we just play a bunch of games. So to actually have the COVID Cup has been super fun. We've only had one day so far, but the draft was really fun. The first COVID Cup was fun, even though my team lost. We're going to go next time. It was fun, though. All the teams were super even, and it was really competitive, so that was good.
So what are the odds that Team Wesloh takes home the bacon here? Like, what's the over-under on the gambling? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. Probably 10 out of 10 Wesloh's taking it home.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but we will see in a few days. So why don't you check back with us?
Kenzie, I actually believe you're actually technically eligible to be traded, Kenzie, I think, right? Is that kind of a weird feeling, being a senior, knowing that you could potentially be on the chopping block and end up on Team Wesloh?
Yes, you better watch what you say. I mean, you never know.
It is a little sad that I could be traded, but I guess if it happens, it happens, and I'll make the best of whatever team I go to. But I'm happy to be on Team Newland right now. It's a good spot.
Kenzie, you talk about, the COVID Cup and having fun with it, obviously the competitive edge, but it's a smaller rink. You're going, the width sides of the boards, but it's actually a good teaching moment too. You shorten the ice, which means you got to make plays a little bit faster. There's not much space out there. So in terms of just getting kind of game ready, how has the COVID Cup been just to kind of get your energy up as well as getting your instincts up as well?
Yeah, it's been good. So like you said, it's in a smaller space. So there's really, really tight spaces. You got to be quick. You can try new moves. You're good with the hands, and we're all pretty aggressive right now. I think we all have this little edge to us because we just want to get as much out of it as we can. So it's been really good, and it's been really quick with speed because we're just going back and forth. So it's been good, yeah.
All right, so I actually am a big fan of small area games. I always have, I think, because huge fan. Yeah. I think my hands are one of my best parts of my game. So I get to use it a lot in small area and just have fun with it. I mean, people know I'm not the fastest, so it's my type of game when I don't have to move that much and just make smart plays and whatever.
Kenzie Wylie and McKenna Wesloh. Of course, McKenna Wesloh, probably more of a Patty Kane type setup. Let's kind of go back a little bit to how you guys ended up at St. Cloud State. Of course, Kenzie, you went to Blaine High School, 7 years in the Skate to Excellence program, along with Annika Linzer and Gabby Hughes, who are both at Duluth and having some pretty good campaigns in their first 2 years there. And then also participated in the Acceleration North program. Hughes was there. Mankato goaltender Calla Frank, Justin Braun, NHL D-man, and Crashed Ice World Champion Amanda Trunzo are a couple of big names out of that. Kind of going through the development process as a young high school player, making multiple state tournament appearances like you did. How important was it for you to go to places like that, talking about the Skate to Excellence program? Can you kind of fill us in on what that experience was like and, how it shaped you as a player getting ready to play Division I hockey?
Yeah, I was really lucky to be able to play on a summer team and go to Acceleration and do all these different camps. And it really helped me develop as a player, especially because I was working on things all year round. And then I got to play with a bunch of different players. Skate to Excellence was a really fun team for me to be a part of. And like you said, I got to play with Gabby and Annika and a lot of really other good players. And my coach, was really, really great about helping me develop. And the different things I went to, like acceleration or skate to excellence, helped me work on different skills, and just being able to work throughout the years and just try and get better, I guess, and keep developing each year was really nice and really important to me. So it kind of definitely helped me get to where I am today, that's for sure.
And McKenna, we kind of touched on this a little bit. Nick and I did in the COVID Cup draft a little bit last week. Like many of the incoming freshmen, you, of course, participated in the 15s and 16s national hockey camps and then the top 66 camp as well. We see that trend kind of a lot with the women's hockey players coming in, like we mentioned, in this freshman group. For you and your development, how important did you feel that was for you? And like, what would you tell young women who are looking to, grow their skills and get into Division I hockey, maybe some things that maybe you knew or didn't know or learned from that process, going to those camps?
Yeah, that process was super fun. I'm a really outgoing person, so going there and like meeting a whole bunch of different people, getting to play with people from all over the country, it was a lot of fun. And I think it was almost like a humbling experience going there, because then you're like, wow, like these people are really good. Like I've only played with people from Minnesota, and you're like, holy crap, like there's a whole different branch of players out there. So it was honestly awesome. Like it's one of the best experiences I had growing up and participating in those camps. So it was a lot of fun. But just to other girls out there, like just enjoy the process, like have fun, but just put in the work and it'll get you somewhere.
So I kind of want to follow up on that a little bit. And in terms of a humble teaching moment, when you look back on your careers as collegiate hockey players, of course, McKenna, you started at Ohio State, had a couple points there, and then had a redshirt season in your sophomore campaign before 25 games your junior year. And Kenzie, you've played in every game the last 2 years, but your freshman year in only 11. I think if Nick and I go back as well, we've all been there, especially early in our careers at the next level or the next tier, where maybe you're not playing every night, maybe you're trying to crack the lineup, or just can't get off the schneid, for lack of a better term. Kenzie, we'll start with you. Especially as a freshman and an incoming player, how important is it in that stage of your career to not get down on yourself? Like, what would you, if you could go back to your younger self, what would you tell yourself kind of in that moment as you're trying to continue to develop and make that team? Because I know that's not an easy question for us to ask, but I think that it's good for a lot of young hockey players to realize that when you jump to that next level, that transition might not be smooth. So for you, kind of what was your thought process, developing and ended up playing in every game since your sophomore year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously you come to a new team, the next level, and you kind of have expectations, but you're not really completely sure what it was. But it was a big jump in speed and skill level. And yeah, like you said, I didn't play a whole lot, and like back then that was upsetting, like what you said. But like you really can't get that down on yourself. You gotta have that mindset that like you want to set goals, like you have certain things to work on, and the coaches are really good about setting some time aside to work with you or giving you drills or things to work on yourself. So it's really important to have that mindset that like this may be like the spot I'm in right now, but this isn't the spot I'm going to be in forever. So you kind of have to use that as motivation to like push yourself further. Because I remember like after sitting a few games and I was like, wow, this sucks. But I was like, okay, what do I have to do to get in the lineup? What do I have to do to get out of the spot? So you just kind of use that as momentum to set your goal and figure out how to get there.
Yeah, McKenna, same question for you. And then, of course, you kind of, like we mentioned, had a bigger weight being a redshirt in your sophomore year. So, I mean, I'm sure you were just itching to get back on the ice. Kind of for you, what is that thought process as well to kind of just go through, maybe when you're not jumping in the lineup, just kind of staying positive and doing the little things that you need to do?
Yeah, it was a lot with what Kenzie said, just like setting goals and stuff. And the hardest part for me was at Ohio, I played and then I got injured in end of December there and had surgery in February. So that put me out for the rest of the year. And then I was recovering for 10 months from surgery. And then coming into a redshirt year, it was super hard for me because I hadn't played in a long time once I finally got to. And so I was just itching to play in a game like for the longest time. So it was super hard for me when I got hurt at first, to be like, oh, wow, like this really sucks. Like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything at all. Like skate. I didn't skate for over 5 months, you know, and being a kid who's played hockey all year round, I mean, that's super hard. So it was just almost like staying positive, keeping my head up and being like, okay, why did I start playing hockey? Like, you know, this has been my whole life. Like, I just got to keep going.
I want to actually touch on that a little bit to you ladies too, because hockey is such a tightly knit community, and a lot of it is, you know, a family type thing too. For me, I grew up with 3 sisters, so I didn't really have, you know, the one person or a brother that I could really skate with that kind of was my competitive edge. But typically, you know, when you're a young kid and you start putting on the skates for the first time, whether it's a parent or a sibling or maybe even a cousin, McKenna, I want to start with you. Who was the person maybe most responsible for putting you on ice skates and putting a stick in your hand and really, you know, kind of enjoying the game the first time? And then it was kind of, I suppose for most of us, a love affair, you know, once it took off. So for you, I want to start with you on that question.
Yeah, so it was definitely my dad. And I grew up with an older brother who played. And so I just remember back in the day going out and literally in the front of our house, we had a pond that we would flood and skate on. So I just remember those moments of being in the basement, putting on those skates and just being excited to go outside, even if it was negative, whatever, out and just have fun, shoot around. So I definitely looked up to my older brother, who was just 2 years older than me, but we always had a year that we played together. So sometimes we would play on the same teams, whether he liked that or not. But, and then my dad has coached hockey as long as I can remember. He coached boys hockey. And then switched to girls right before I went to high school. So it was awesome having my dad always being there to coach me and looking up to my older brother. And yeah.
And then Kenzie, same question to you, I suppose. You know, where was your, you know, origination into the game, and, you know, was there a family tie, or, you know, how did you get into your skates the first time, and I guess how did it take off, you know, from when it did?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as McKenna. My dad played growing up, and then my older brother also played. So I think my dad put me in skates when I was about 4 years old, and I just never took them off pretty much. Yeah, but me and my family would, go play pond hockey together, and my dad was my coach a lot of my years growing up for youth hockey. I think he coached almost all my youth, and he was an assistant coach on Skate Excellence, so he was with me in the summers too, and we would travel a lot together, and we have a little shooting spot in our unfinished basement, so we would go down there sometimes. So yeah, he was a huge role in my hockey career.
And then just one follow-up for both of you, because, you know, you hear from NHL players that it really is the pond hockey game, you know, that really, you know, kind of helps you develop your skill, your speed, and just your awareness of the game. But the women's game continues to grow, and this is a great thing. What would you say to young women out there who maybe think there's a stereotype or whatnot out there? How would you encourage young women to get out and skate, and maybe they don't have that family history of playing the game? How would you get more young women involved in just taking that first step to putting on hockey skates and maybe putting a stick in their hand for the first time? McKenna, I'll start with you.
I would say just go out there and, like, don't be scared. Like, go out there to a random, you know, outdoor rink or pond or whatever, and where people are skating, and just don't be scared to jump in there. I mean, it's a learning experience for everyone. So, I mean, once you start, I think they'll love it, and just keep working at it, and you'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like for you, Kenzie.
I mean, they may be scared because it's a stereotype, but yeah, it's really just about having fun, especially for our new skaters or our younger girls, just for them to be able to get the chance to lace up some skates, maybe grab a stick, just go out and have some fun with friends, family, whoever's there, or maybe even by themselves. They just want to try it out. But yeah, it's not being afraid to try. Just give it a shot and have some fun.
Speaking of giving things a shot, Kenzie, you tallied your first collegiate goal this past year in a 6-0 win against Lindenwood. I believe Brooke Kaderka had a hat trick that game, if I'm not mistaken.
She did, absolutely.
And it makes me think a funny story. So we were on the broadcast that night. Nick, you weren't with me, but it was me and Sam Getzinger, and we had gone through the board and talked about, you know, like who was looking for their first, you know, who was looking for some big points, that sort of thing. And I swear, probably about 2 shifts before you scored, we said, you know, Kenzie Wylie in her junior year still looking for her first collegiate goal, and all of a sudden, boom. Can you kind of take us through that moment of what that was like? I believe, wasn't it a shot from the point, a puck through like traffic or something like that, if I'm not mistaken?
It was. I remember it.
Yeah. It was just, sorry. I was really excited that I scored. Like, I was like, I have to score. Like, come on, Kenzie. Like, you have to get a goal here at some point. But yeah, it was just a DDD pass. I was with Tatum on the point, and I just shot her on net, and she went in, and I think I did a little hop because I was so excited. And yeah, but it was really exciting. And I remember Steve saying like he could just see how big my smile was as I was like skating through the line, and yeah. So that was exciting.
I remember just like how happy and excited we were when Kenzie scored, and it was just, I think we replayed the clip of her jumping up and down quite a few times in film, but
I think awesome. I was so excited because the whole bench was like freaking out for me, so that was cool.
Blaine High School, you had 12 goals in the 4 years that you were there, so you only have 11 more to go to catch up in a St. Cloud State Huskies uniform, and you'll be all right.
Sure, yeah.
McKenna, and then we touched on this one a little bit in the pre-show. Your first ever collegiate goal was actually with Ohio State, and it was a game winner against Bemidji State in a 5-4 win in November. But was it really your first goal, McKenna? Can we talk about your first collegiate point? Who was it against, and should it have been tallied as what it was?
Yeah, so we were here playing at St. Cloud State. I remember being excited because I had a bunch of my family who was here and friends that came to watch. And I remember going down, it was like a 2-on-1 or 2-on-2 or something, and I went to pass it. I can't remember if I like pass it or like hard, whatever, but it hit off a stick. I honestly had no idea it went in. Like I was standing there and I was like, hey, goalie saved it, like whatever. I don't even know where the puck was, like whatever. And then everyone started cheering and I was like, what the heck? And I actually in the game was the first one to go through the line because people thought I scored. Well, then they gave it to the other player who they thought stick it hit. And then I remember going back in film. I was like, I don't know, guys, like whatever. And I went and looked at the film and it hit the St. Cloud State defender. So I don't know. I would take it as my goal, but I guess I'll take this. It matters the same anyways.
For those first goals, I think it's important to touch, Kenzie, I was actually broadcasting Flow TV that night. So I was actually down Radio Row for you guys and watching the celebration. I mean, was it a dream come true moment, honestly? Like when it actually happened, I guess, what was the feeling? What was the, elation when you saw the goal horn and the lights go on? Like what was the feeling like?
It was honestly like, I feel like I was like on top of the world for some reason, but I think I was the first one to see that it went in. So I kind of shot it and then I was like waiting for everyone to see it. And then I was like, woohoo! Like, but I was just like pretty hype about it. But yeah, it was good. And it was kind of like a sense of relief because I was like, I really want to get a goal. So now I finally got my first collegiate goal. I was like, like I did it.
Does it give you more fuel, to give you more, I guess, what was your emotion like playing the rest of the game where you feel like more on top of the puck? I guess, that energy can kind of, carry with you throughout the rest of the evening. I think it did, didn't it?
Yeah, I think I definitely felt, more confident with the puck after that point. And I remember once I started scoring, that's when my points started happening too. I started getting more assists. So I think it kind of just built off that, which is nice.
I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit too. Last year, 17 shots on goal, 36 block shots, and the year before that, I think you had 49 block shots too. I think it's safe to say you're characterized as a defense first type defenseman, which I'm not going to lie, it's a good quality for defensemen to have. But when you kind of talk about having confidence with the puck and being able to work from the back end up and then being confident enough as a defenseman to shoot more and that sort of thing, how important have your two new incoming coaches, one, I should say incoming and one changing roles in Janelle Sergey and Molly Engstrom, especially Kenzie with Molly on the back end, how pivotal has it been for Molly to help you continue to develop your game as you enter your last year in a St. Cloud State uniform?
Yeah, Molly's been super great. A lot of times during practices, we do like D forward splits. So we all go on separate ends, and Molly always has such good drills of doing one-on-ones or breakouts or lots of shots from the points and just working with the puck and working her feet. So she's definitely helped develop my skills a lot personally. So it's been really nice having her last year, and I'm excited to see how this year goes too.
And then McKenna, of course, you probably spend more time with Janelle Sergey, of course, Janelle Zog when she was a player with the Wisconsin Badgers. And she's been here, I believe it'll be her 7th or 8th year behind the bench at St. Cloud State. Can you kind of talk about what kind of element she brings to that forward group at St. Cloud State and what she's done for you personally as a player?
Yeah, Janelle is super awesome. I love her as a coach, and her and Molly both being Olympic players. Like, it's almost kind of like surreal having them on the bench with us and teaching us every day. But Janelle's super awesome with like little details, like little things in your game that you can change, like little skills, little moves. And she's been awesome with us, like taking different type of shots and like where to take them and how to, kind of get around to that space to take them. But she's awesome. Like, we all love her and appreciate what she's done a lot.
I think it's important too, guys. I mean, you talk about the two Olympic, type coaching. I mean, these certainly will have an impact. But I think the biggest question that the fans are going to be looking for this season is what's going to be different. From as a player's perspective, when I go to watch a game at the Herb Rush National Hockey Center, how is this year's team going to be different looking at the ice than last year's team? We want to forget last year. I get it. Wasn't, the record we all wanted, but what's this team going to look like? Is there going to be some changes offensively, defensively? What are we going to expect as the identity of the women's hockey team moving forward? And McKenna, I'll start with you.
I almost feel like there's like pressure on our shoulders, like obviously everybody knows last year's season, like it just wasn't how we wanted it to go. And so I feel like a lot of us put in so much work in the off season and right away coming here, like the coaches talk about just like raising that ceiling. Like, we're just right now with everything going on and the season delayed, like we're just working on getting the best selves that we can be. And so I think we're just really putting in the work right now so we can come out and really show teams what we can do.
Kenzie, is there an element of surprise that can be helpful? And to feel pressure, as McKenna said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That means their expectations now are higher. That means, what, I have a bar to live up to. So going in with that mentality, I guess, how are you approaching the upcoming season? And I suppose, what are your expectations for the differences on the ice between last year and this year?
Yeah, kind of what Kenna said is we're not playing right now, but we're taking this as an opportunity to get better. We're in the weight room every day. We're skating, and we're just using this time to like keep developing our skills before we have to start the season. And we have a lot of new faces, so I'm just hoping that we keep building on speed and strength, and that we just keep developing our skills so we can carry that on into the season once we start.
We had Steve McDonald on last week as well, and he kind of talked about, like you mentioned, raising that consistency level and bringing your best in the WCH every night, which is arguably the toughest women's hockey conference in college hockey. But also, as you mentioned, with the COVID Cup, this is your first chance to really see the new faces and see what you have as far as the incoming class. Of course, you did lose some key players, Janine Alder, Hallie Theodosopoulos, Abby Thiessen, to name a few. What have you kind of seen from the limited time that you've seen with these new players coming in? Anything that's impressed you about this group? Because obviously the freshman group from last year that is now sophomores had a really strong campaign, and they're going to be pretty important to the team too. Kenzie, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, they're looking like a really good group. They have a lot of speed to them, and just from the COVID Cup, they're pretty good in tight spaces, which is what we need, and they're quick with speed, and some of them have some killer shots, so that's always good too. We want lots of shots at forward and even at D, so they're looking really good so far.
Yeah, I'm really confident in them. Like, I feel really good about them. I remember even like when our first captain practices were around. When our first captain practices came around, we're all skating together. I was like, wow, like we have a good group of girls right here. Like I was like, I feel really good about this upcoming year, and I just think us upperclassmen, with them coming in, are just really trying to, I think they know too that it's like we want to win. Like, we're not here to mess around this year, and we just want to win. We just want to do it.
Ladies, we don't really know, I guess how the season's going to play out, but we've seen it, with a lack of preseason in some professional sports, how that can impact, maybe building some team chemistry. Do you feel like the COVID Cup, as much as it is fun, it's kind of also very important? I guess, again, you have a lot of new faces. You're trying to build chemistry. We know that, line chemistry in hockey is incredibly important. So are you really treating this as like a real competition also? Does it try to build, the team chemistry on the ice so that way when the games do finally come on the schedule, you guys are ready to play and you guys know where each other are on the ice? Is that how you're kind of approaching this?
Yeah, it's almost like learning, definitely because there's trades every week. I mean, you're learning how to play with a bunch of different people. Like, I feel like we're starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, like I feel comfortable playing with her. I know where she's going to be. So we're just, learning all the newcomers, places. Like when I play with Kenzie, I know her type of play. So like I know her style. And so it's just kind of learning all the newcomers' ways.
I guess to follow up on that before we jump to you, Kenzie McKenna, how would you describe, maybe we'll do this, how would you describe Kenzie Wylie's style of play? Like what is her, what are her strengths to her game? What's the scouting report?
Kenzie's very smart with the puck. I mean, I think she makes very good plays out there, and she's very defensive, as you mentioned before, but not afraid to take a rush when she sees one. So I just think she's a really smart player.
Oh, baby.
And then I guess kind of talking about the COVID Cup, as Nick had mentioned, can you kind of touch on, what that tournament means? And then when you're facing McKenna Wesloh out there, what are some things that you got to be aware of, as the scouting report says, besides, I'm assuming some big, strong power forward moves,
Yeah, the COVID Cup has been good. I mean, I'm excited for the next 3 weeks we still have, but kind of what Kenna said is we're getting used to playing with each other, so it's kind of nice to take this opportunity to kind of, get a feel for each other, see what it's like, actually kind of have a more game-like experience. Even though it is small ice 3-on-3, it's really competitive, really quick. We're kind of getting that game feel a little more, so that's been really nice to do. Yeah.
So so McKenna Wesloh, what do you got to be worried about for her when she's coming down the ice?
I mean, like she said before, she's got some wicked hands. That's for sure. I know when I'm like reversing to go back on D with her and she tries and pull that toe pull. It almost gets me every time. But
it does.
My stick on stick action's pretty good. So, but yeah, Kenna's really good with her hands. She's really aggressive with the puck and when going to the net. So she usually finishes unless she's against me.
Okay, we locked it now.
We actually got to spend quite a bit of time with McKenna Wesloh before the COVID pandemic did actually hit. Got to spend some time at Victory Nutrition, which I believe McKenna, you and Carly Reese got to check out today. Can you kind of walk for our listeners who unfortunately never really got to see the video because of what had happened with the pandemic and some technical things? Can you kind of walk us through what that experience was like with the Huskies Warming House podcast? And I guess between the two of us, since you and I played one-on-one, I mean, who wins that battle still? I'm really curious. Oh, it's you. Hands down you?
Hands down. I'm just kidding. No, it was awesome. I almost felt like famous. I don't know. It was like weird. It was weird for me to be behind a camera that much, but I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, you guys are a lot of fun to be around, and it was just a super fun experience. And yeah,
there's a reason why that he was the one-on-one, because if I was on the ice, I would just trump both of you. But anyway, so
I don't know. I thought you saw you on skates, and I don't know if you moved very, very much, but
that's awesome.
Are you sure you're watching me? I mean, I think you're watching the wrong game. But well, to the victor goes the spoiler or something like that.
For me, the coolest part about that too was actually the fact that we were actually supposed to only jump on for the last half of that ice session, and it ended up being, wasn't there somebody that was sick or was hurt? So I actually got to practice through the entire practice. I don't know, Kenzie, I don't even know. I don't think I was on your team, right? I think it was like Rachel Herzog was on my team and stuff. Like when I stepped on the ice, and of course Nick was the camera crew in the back, did you guys kind of have any fair warning as to the fact that I was going to be jumping on the ice with you guys, or were you like, who is this tall dude just showing up in the middle of our practice?
I don't remember if we had a warning or not.
I don't remember either. I think there was some talk like, oh, is he coming on? And then some people were like, what are these people doing here?
I think we still thought you were coming on after, so when you did hop on, we're like, whoa. Okay.
I do remember like jumping on the ice and like not in a bad way, but I remember just kind of feeling like I can't think of any movie, but where like the alien comes out of like the building and everyone is just like, who the heck? What is? I definitely had that sort of feeling. I don't know, but it was a lot of fun. To skate with you. So I just wanted to grab your perspective, Nick.
I got one more question for the ladies actually, because No, this actually kind of goes back to that same session, right? Because you had complimented on the goaltender, Emma Paluzny. And she, I would think, as far as an outsider is, that's kind of like the heart and soul of this team. She's a very, very good goaltender, faced a lot of rubber last year. She's due to have another big year this year. How important is it, and how, I guess, much confidence does it give you to have such a great goaltender in net between the pipes for you, ladies? Can I start with you? What does Emma mean to this team, and what does she bring with you guys night in and night out?
Emma means a lot to us. You know, she's our brick wall, and I think we have so much confidence in her behind us. And, you know, like, if we make a mistake, like, we have trust in Emma that she's going to cover up for us. So, you know, she means a lot. She's a huge aspect, like you said, to this team, and we appreciate her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenzie, you spent a lot of time near her, obviously being, you know, kind of the last line of defense, you know, in the defensive zone. What have you seen from Emma Paluzny, and I guess just how good is she between the pipes?
Yeah, you know, Emma's definitely always got her back. That's for sure. She saved lots of good shots, lots of good angles this last year, and she's obviously very reliable. So that's always nice. She's just killer at her job, and it's nice to know that we've always got someone back there that is going to get it done when we need it. And if we ever need a little pick me up, Emma's always there to cheer us on, help us out, keep the team going. So that's nice.
So moving kind of to off the ice a little bit here, and again, ladies, thank you for joining us. Kenzie, you're an elementary education major. McKenna, it's listed that you're a major in psychology and a minor in coaching at St. Cloud State. Don't know if that's changed or not.
Yes, it has. I'm a health and physical education major, and I'm a psych minor right now. Might be a double major here, but we'll see.
Ooh. So off the ice, I know McKenna, we kind of got to spend a little time with you, so we'll probably start with you. But besides Victory Nutrition, I mean, what's kind of your general, like, if you have an off day or you're kind of hanging out after class, I mean, what are some of the things that you like to do for hobbies and kind of kick back and relax? Are you hanging out with the team? Are you riding solo? Are you making some of those amazing protein shakes that you got to share with us when we were there? Those things were so, what was in those again? It was, I mean, they tasted like a donut, literally. I mean, it was.
Yeah, so you just get some sugar-free glazed donut syrup and some cinnamon, and that's all there is to it. I mean, it's pretty simple, but no, I'm a big person. Like, I like to be around other people. I'm a big social person. Like, it doesn't matter who it's with. If someone's like, hey, I'm going here, you want to come? I'm like, sure, yeah, I got nothing better to do. So I'm kind of a floater, I would say. Like, I'll go hang out with anybody and do anything with everyone. So usually, you know, if I'm in my apartment and my roommates are being boring and doing homework or something, I'll go find a different place to go hang out and do something. But our big thing recently has been horror movies with Halloween coming up. So we've had a bunch of little scary movie showings at my apartment, so that's been fun.
So if you're still with, I believe you're with Laura Kluge, Hannah Bates, and Emma Paluzny, is it true what they say that the most horrifying thing about that apartment is actually Laura Kluge scraping the oats off of her bowl when she wakes up? Or?
So we got two people here. We got Laura scraping every last bite of her food, and then you have Poe, like, oh yeah, this is good. Oh my gosh, like, always talking when she's eating. She has to tell everybody how good her food is. So
Poe likes to make noise when she eats.
Yeah,
so.
it's quite something in our apartment, that's for sure.
She's quite the chef, Emma Paluzny is, from what I hear, or tries to be anyway. Kenzie, what's your living situation like? Are you a little bit more mellow than the Wesloh apartment, or does it get pretty wily, as one would say?
Oh. Well, you know, I'm just right down the hall, so I go over there quite a bit, but I have a pretty busy schedule, so when I come home, I kind of like to have a little alone time for maybe like an hour to rejuvenate, but then I love to be with these people. They're just great.
Yeah, so I guess I to kind of characterize, Kenzie, of course, we came to you about a week ago and asked, you know, like, who do you want to come with you on the show to join us? So why McKenna Wesloh? Because, Kenzie, you seem a little bit more, not really shy, but you're just kind of mellow hanging out. And McKenna, you could probably, I don't know, the 2020 election is coming up in the United States, and I think you probably could run for president if you were eligible, just by how social you are. So I mean, what is your relationship, both on and off the ice, for the both of you? Kenzie, maybe we'll start with you.
Well, fun little fact. Me and McKenna actually became friends in St. Cloud, Minnesota during selects when we were younger. So we met here, and our friendship just bloomed. And now we're here. But yeah, I don't know. Me and McKenna are pretty close, and we have fun together. I think she brings me out of my mellow state a little bit, so that's nice.
Did you two ever actually play against each other? Of course, McKenna, you're from Zimmerman, Minnesota, and then Kenzie from Ham Lake. Did you ever actually play against each other in high school or in select camps by chance?
Yeah, we did. So in youth hockey, we were in the same district. So I played for Elk River and Blaine. So we were both in District 10. So we played against each other a lot in that. Mm-hmm. And then when I played at Elk River for high school, we were in the same conference. So we played each other then. And then during the summer, we played against each other too. Like we've had a lot of time playing against each other. And then we were on the same team for, selects growing up, and we would always stay in the same hotel. So me and Kenzie go way back. We spent a lot of time with each other, whether it was on the same team or probably punching each other in the corners or something.
This is my last question, and I'll kick it over to Nick. So St. Cloud State, obviously, you're getting ready for your senior season that hopefully is getting set to happen. One, how excited are you for the season? But going back to right before your freshman year, what brought you both to St. Cloud State and kind of made you want to be a St. Cloud State Husky? Obviously, I know, McKenna, your journey is a little different too, especially with that transfer. So, Kenzie, maybe we'll start with you because yours is the most linear path, I would say, to St. Cloud State. What brought you to the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center?
Yeah, I've obviously been to the St. Cloud campus a few times just with like national camps and things like that. So I had kind of already had a feel for it. But when I came on my visit, I really like the feel of the campus. I like the size. I like the location because it's still kind of close to home, but I'm not too close. So I feel like I can go home if I want, but I can be away too. And I really enjoyed the coaching staff when I met them. I really liked them. And St. Cloud has a good education program, and I really liked what the team had to offer, and I was just I was really excited to be a part of it, so it felt like a really good fit for me.
Yeah, and then McKenna, of course, Eric Rude was the head coach at the time when you first transferred over. What brought you from Ohio to St. Cloud State, and did it have to do with the coaching staff or just kind of a multitude of personal and professional factors, as one would say?
Definitely. I think it had a lot to do with it. In high school, I wasn't so much of a homebody, but St. Cloud was definitely one of the top schools on my radar, even, in high school. And I think the big part of that was like, I want to go away from home. I just want to, be a bird and go fly away. But my parents actually met here and both went to school here. And so I think that had part of it. It was like, no, I'm not going to go to the same school as you guys. Like, that's so lame. Like, come on. And then I was at Ohio and, things didn't work out. And I just remember being like, now I want to be close to home, and I absolutely love being close to my family. And I have two siblings in high school, so I get to go and, whether I go to their football games or soccer games, I love being able to drive 40 minutes to home and supporting them and spending time with my family. So I think that's really important to me.
40 minutes, that's got to be like the average walk across campus at Ohio State, right? Did you ever get a chance to take one of the football games there? I feel like, because I know I come from a small town in North Dakota, and I thought St. Cloud State was a big university, but I got to imagine Ohio State has got to be something else.
Massive. It absolutely blows your mind. And the football games are insane. Like, you're on campus for a football game day, and you just have never seen anything like it. Like, there's so many people outside, like, just everywhere. It's absolutely insane.
Got one last question for each of you. It's going to be different questions. McKenna, I'll start with you. There's a lot that's talked about the culture of St. Cloud State hockey, both men's and women's, and it being, kind of like the biggest attraction, to the program. I suppose, can you just put it in words, I guess in your own, phrases, if you can describe the culture of the women's hockey team, what is it about? I know family's a big part of your life. Is it really just almost like that family, emotional kind of thing that attracts ladies to our program? What is it about it that, has this culture so reputable around the WCH as well as women's hockey?
Yeah, I think a big thing with our team is we are a family. Like, we are so close with each other. And I think that's a big thing for people who come in and, whether they're taking a visit or whatnot, they're spending time with our team. I think they see how close we are and how much fun we have with each other, and, how competitive, and, we can have fun at one point, and we can also be like, hey, Kenzie, pick it up. Like, we have good relationships people on our team where, you know, we can push them to be better, but we can also, you know, go have a good time. So that's what I love about us.
And then, Kenzie, I've got one final question for you. You are a senior. You know, hard to know what, you know, the next few months may look like, but nonetheless, this, you know, may end up being your final months that you will be able to put on a St. Cloud State women's hockey sweater. Have you thought about life after hockey or possibly coming off the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center one last time? I mean, is it an emotional thought for you now? And I guess, you know, have you even thought about it? I mean, what's it going to feel like when you actually do finally get off the ice and take off the pads for the final time?
Just a warning, I think she's about to cry over here. So watch out.
I hadn't really thought about it that much until you just said that. So
Come on, Nick. Jeez.
a little deep. But yeah, you know, I haven't given it much thought yet just because I don't really want to focus on that. It's kind of sad. But I don't know. I just want to take one day at a time and really experience this last year with everything I have. And once I take off the pads for the last time, I'll definitely be in tears. But I'm looking forward to my future too. It's going to be a sad goodbye, but it'll be okay. I'm going to come back and visit, and I'll see my friends again.
I guess, like, if you do take off the pads, which at some point Nick and I can attest, it does happen to all of us. For both of you, what can you do, or what do you think needs to be done just around the game of women's hockey? We've asked most of our guests that have some sort of connection to women's hockey about it. What needs to be done to continue to grow the game? Last week, Nick and I had talked about Secret Deodorant just gave $1 million to the Dream Gap Tour for women's hockey and the Professional Women's Hockey Association, the Players Association. Kenzie, we'll start with you. You know, what would you like to see, especially someone who has been a state tournament participant yourself, to be able to grow the Minnesota High School State Tournament, to be able to grow the NWHL, and just get more exposure for women's hockey across the country, North America, the world, wherever hockey can be played, get women's hockey going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, there's like more and more camps and opportunities for girls coming about, which is so cool. So I just really hope that there's more things in camps that keep coming about, so that these young girls can develop these skills, and that throughout time they just keep going to the next level. And I hope that just state tournament, youth programs, all those things all over the country, nation, whatever you want, gets that exposure, gets the fan base, and just, yeah, gets that support that we really need to keep going and keep growing.
McKenna, and then for you, you know, along those lines of growing the game of hockey, is there anything? I know when we had Hannah Patrikas and Alyssa Winicky on, they had talked about some things that they wish they would have known a little bit, getting ready for Division I hockey for the first time. Is there anything that you can kind of talk about at those younger levels for, you know, some of these young girls and women who are looking to jump to that next level, but maybe don't really have the support system or the community around them yet that really focuses on the game of women's hockey, like a lot of places in Minnesota?
Right. I think it's, you know, it's all about going to those camps and meeting, you know, different players from all over the country. And I think just like lean in on your teammates, like lean in on the people who do want to like push you and grow the game and, you know, get you to the next level. And I think, you know, because once you go from high school and you get to college, it's a whole different level. Like, it's just so much faster. And I remember when we finally got to have a first team practice and we like scrimmage or whatever, I remember talking to freshmen, they're like, wow, like this is fast. Like, this is so fun because it's so fast. So like, I mean, it gets better for sure. Like, it gets so much fun, you know, love it.
Kenzie Wylie and McKenna Wesloh, two current players on the St. Cloud State women's hockey team. Ladies, it's been a blast. Can't even, you know, just, again, we're laughing right now. So glad you ladies could join us. It's been great. Good luck in the upcoming season. Hope to actually keep in touch. We'll certainly have to continue to follow the COVID Cup and how all that plays out. And certainly want to, you know, continue to follow you as the season, which will hopefully finally start sometime soon, actually gets underway. So McKenna, Kenzie, again, thanks for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you both on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I had a blast. Had a couple brain farts, but we made it through.
Story of my life, man. So
yeah. You know what we go through every day. I guess one other thing too, Nick, I want to ask quick. Kenzie, are you going to be wearing a captaincy? Are you going to be wearing a letter for one more year on your sweater?
You know, we still have to find out.
Oh, the cliffhanger.
Yeah. So you really do have to come back for more.
Yeah.
Who knows? We could be looking at 2 future St. Cloud State women's hockey captains. But again, Kenzie and McKenna, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and enjoy your week.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Take the Huskies Warming House podcast wherever you go. Find the newest episodes or listen to your favorite on iTunes and Podbean. Get all the latest news and updates at huskieswarminghousepodcast.com and look for our Facebook page, the Huskies Warming House Podcast, as well as our Twitter feed at Warming House Den. Our Twitter feed will host trivia, updates, and questions for fans, as well as a mailbag where you can tweet us anytime with your questions, concerns, or listener suggestion. And for business inquiries, email us at huskieswarminghousepodcast@outlook.com.
And again, thanks to Kenzie Wylie as well as McKenna Wesloh for joining us. Again, it was a lot of fun to talk to them. We wish them the best of luck, A, in the Kova Cup, and B, when their upcoming season finally does get underway. Still waiting word from the WCHA for that. But no, to finish off this week's episode, it is Halloween. The pumpkin is in the studio here. We have to do some fun stuff with Halloween. We're going to do it the fun Halloween kind of trio. We're going to do some rankings, our top 5 candy, our top 5 costumes, and our top 5 maybe scary movies. We're going to start with costumes because, at least, well, for me, it's been a while since I've worn a costume, but maybe I wear one every day. I don't know. But I'm going to start with you. Top 5 costumes, and this could be recent. It could be when you were little. Top 5 costumes for Halloween. Go ahead. Give us start from 5 and work your way to the top.
Sure. So my list is kind of lame, and I'm going to tell you why it's lame, because it's more nostalgia for me than anything. So this is why we're starting with costumes. So first one, anything Star Wars. And the only reason I say anything Star Wars is because it was really popular in my neck of the woods, and I get an absolute kick out of watching little kids who are 7, 8 years old, not controlled by their parents, getting lightsabers in their hands and smacking the crap out of each other. I love that. It just makes me laugh. This one's kind of a safer pick at number 4. Anything zombie related. I'm a big zombie nerd. I love zombie video games. I love post-apocalyptic stuff. So kudos if you're wearing anything zombie or anything post-apocalyptic. I just dig it. I love it. Fallout 4 fans, I think post-apocalyptic, that counts in that realm too. Number 3 coming in. This one makes me chuckle as I get older, so I can't imagine how you feel about this one, Nick. Kids dressed as old people, like kids that come up in like the walkers and the canes and stuff like that. I don't know. It's kind of adorable, kind of fun.
I'm surprised you waited this long for that type of a joke, honestly. You almost made it through a whole episode, and it didn't quite last.
Hey, I got to make sure I get my hits in every week for sure. Number 2, this one is classic. Ghost sheets, like kids who dress as ghosts by just putting a hole in their eyes. And I like it for the simple fact that my church had an event like this where they had kids get different colored sheets and dressed up as ghosts. There is nothing funnier to me, honestly, than seeing this little orb of a child's head with 2 eyes cut out running around in the dark, like tackling each other and running into walls and whatever it is. Ghosts are just like the stereotypical costume. It just makes me laugh. I don't know. And number 1, this one I saw for the first time last year, and it was a chocolate Labrador Retriever, dressed as a Hershey's Kiss. So the outfit was kind of the foily Hershey's, and then of course the dog had the kind of cap on top with the little tag that says Hershey's Kiss coming out of it. That one made me kind of laugh. So that was probably a lame list. I don't know. I can hear people just going like, "Oh, you're probably someone who loves candy corn, don't you?" Fun fact about
probably do actually.
Hey. Okay, I mean, it's okay. Fun fact about candy corn, though, if you stack the candy corn like in a circle, it actually looks like a corn cob if you stack them all together, but no one gets that much candy corn to have it. Anyway, I digress. Nick, your top 5 costumes.
Only someone in North Dakota would know when you stack candy corn, that's how it will look. Anyway, my top 5, going from 5 to 4. Number 5, I always loved it when the little kids would wear the Chewbacca uniform. So for Star Wars, more specifically Chewbacca, because it was always funny when they tried to do like the growl with it. And it was always like super high pitched, and you're trying to hand him candy. He was like, just, it wasn't, the greatest thing. And then you try to throw him like, anyway, it's super fun, especially when the parents get involved with it. It ends up being kind of fun. Number 4 for me, any type of costume that requires 2 people, because there's so many things that can go right and a lot of things that can go wrong, especially if like it's a horse costume or just name anything. When someone's trying to go one way, other way, it gets a lot of fun. I don't know. I think there was one person in middle school, I should say one group that tried like a horse or a unicorn thing, and then they ended up like splitting it in half because they were on like the dance floor and they tried to go the other way, and bye-bye, right? So
that's the thing. If you pick a 2-person costume, you know what the number one costume you got to pick there is? You got to pick, what was the name of the character? Was it Cat Dog?
Cat Dog, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can go 2 directions if you want to. You can go both directions.
Number 3, anything that is an optical illusion. And here's what I mean by that. So it's like you're standing down, right, or a guy, and then it looks like you're holding like, but you're really like part of the second costume. So like, it looks like you're running with like some guy with an axe through his head, but really it's like not that. I'm trying to think of what.
Like, I'm trying to think, like, if I remember we had somebody in our class once, our group of people in our class, they did like train cars. So like to be a part of the train car, like you had someone who was the engine, someone who was the caboose, and then you had a couple of guys in the middle, and it had like a cool phrase across it.
Yep. Yeah. So that was always kind of fun. Number 2, the Joker. To me, because it's such a recognizable like person. You can put a mask on with the Joker, with the makeup, and the Joker, especially with the Christian Bale ones and going back to the cartoon. I mean, his look has kind of changed a little bit, but you never can, everybody can still recognize who that is. And to me, it's just a classic supervillain, especially for those who go like the full purple tux and the green inner shirt. To me, I don't know, that was just always a classic. Number 1, Michael Myers, that one, yes. And that one, again, one that everybody knows, and it does not matter if you're prepared for it. If you walk around a corner and that mask is on, it almost causes a heart attack every time. So to me, the Michael Myers mask is number 1, and I have a follow-up to that here later in the program. So
I actually also have a follow-up to that.
But we got costumes out of the way. Top 5 candy, and I'm going to start with you because this one could get a little feisty. So let's go with your top 5 here, Noah, on best Halloween candy.
I'm going to clarify right now, candy corn is not on my list, okay?
Thank gosh.
So when I was picking my candies, I know jawbreakers are particularly common, but anything that's more of a specialty candy or kind of a regional thing, I kind of tried to stay away from. So my list again is probably a little more mundane than it should be. But number 5, always been a fan of Sour Patch Kids. I don't know. It's not really a stereotypical Halloween candy, but I always liked it when I got Sour Patch Kids in just because they rocked. Number 4, lame one, Tootsie Rolls. But I'm telling you, the normal Tootsie Rolls are fine. But the Tootsie...
Did you study for this part?
No, I just was a human being for 20.
Oh, okay.
Here's the deal. The Tootsie Rolls that you got to have that are the best one, and at me on Twitter at SCSU Hockey 91 if you disagree. The best Tootsie Rolls are the blue and white vanilla ones, the flavored ones. Those ones to me, I love them. You've had those, right?
I've had them and just like blown away. Like, what's wrong with you, man? Like if that's your top, that's your 5 and 4. What's gonna be number 3, 2, and 1?
Well, you're going to hate that number 3 is a Hershey's bar because I love Hershey's bars.
Oh, my goodness.
You are not happy right now, are you? I'm not.
It's not that I'm not happy. And maybe I'm not surprised because it just goes with your personality, just bland and nothing there.
Yeah, okay. When you mentioned the Joker, I was going to say why so serious should be your motto on set. But anyway.
So true.
Anyway, okay. You're going to be even more ticked off about this one. You can get this one at any gas station. Number 2, Three Musketeers. I love Three Musketeers because when I was a kid, I used to tear the cover off the Three Musketeers and just eat the little the soft stuff on the inside. I don't know. I'm from North Dakota.
It's the nougat.
Yeah. Although when you mention nougat, though, this is not a stereotypical candy, but Toblerones, if they were a stereotypical candy, would definitely be in this list.
That's true. Yep.
Number 1 on my list. Maybe I'll redeem myself ever so slightly on this one. Nerds. Got to be Nerds. I love Nerds. My favorite ones are the grape ones. Are you serious? Are you not?
I like Nerds, but I don't know if it would be my top 5.
Okay. And the caveat, my favorite candy of all time, not really a candy. I love Rice Krispie bars. If you give me a Rice Krispie bar, Halloween, Christmas, whatever it is, I will eat 15 Rice Krispie bars. So for me, I've gotten Rice Krispie bars in Halloween things before. You're looking at me right now that I'm like an alien, that I'm from another.
You are. That list is very third world. What reality are you living in?
I don't, you know what? I've had, I guess what is the name of the what's the name of the I can never think of them. Like the sugar ones where you lick the stick or you lick like the
Pixie sticks.
No, not Pixie. Is that?
Oh no, Pixie stick was just in the tube, like the straw. The dipstick, right? Wasn't it dipstick? Yeah, with the sugar like paddle thing.
Yeah,
you dipped it. Yeah,
I like those two too. But I mean, it's kind of like I don't know. I didn't really have them all that much because I'm already whacked out and eccentric as it is. So you don't really go for that one. Anyway, since I suck at this game, Mr. Maxon, why don't you take it away?
Retweet for Noah, like for Nick on this one here, folks. So at this one, number 5, 100 grand. So that's a really good candy bar. The peanuts and the chocolate. Oh, yeah, from North Dakota.
Let me guess. Reese's peanut butter cups are on your list, aren't they?
It's somewhere. Yeah, it's a normal thing. I don't care.
People, aren't you? You're a peanut butter.
I'm a normal person. Yeah, get at me, bro. So okay, number 4, Three Musketeers dark chocolate. The dark chocolate's better. Not the milk. Not the milk chocolate.
I've had enough of your shenanigans right now.
How about I finish my list? That's right. Shake your head. I don't care. So, Mr. Sugar High, Pixie Stick sniffing guy. I mean, I'm surprised you don't have a little residue sitting in your nose right now, honestly.
Well, I do, but it's not Pixie Sticks. I'm kidding.
Hashtag get tested for COVID. Number 3, Crunch Bar. I love the Crunch Bar because I never been able to figure out what the hell was in the Crunch Bar.
Crunch Bar, I like Crunch Bars, but Crunch Bar is like my Hershey's bar. You can't get that. Like, I'm not mad about this one. I'm just saying, if you're saying Crunch Bar, Hershey's bar is not too far of a stretch. I didn't say like Almond Joy or something.
Okay, fine. But anyway, so number 2, a lot of people may not know this one. Charleston Chews are really, really tasty.
Fair.
Charleston Chews, and it's kind of fun because Charleston Chews, they're popular enough, but I don't think they get passed around as much as like Halloween treats very much. And it's one of those where it's like kind of a rarity. So if you get one, it's like, you got to save that one for sure. And yes, I'm going to be the goofball that says Reese's peanut butter cups are my number 1. I don't even care. At me, at the Puck Scribe. It is my favorite. Get at me. Don't care. So, but
I really like your Charleston Chew pick though. I gotta be honest with you. And Charleston Chew makes a couple different flavors. You got your chocolate.
They do, yes.
Strawberries, yes. Kudos. You know what? We both suck. I have no idea.
Fair enough. Okay. Our last list before we get to our Halloween stories for the group is our top 5 Halloween movies. Noah, your 5, and I'm just going to not interrupt you this time. I'll let you just say your bit. So let's hear it. What's the 5 movies you must watch, maybe even starting tonight, especially tomorrow?
Sure. The only one on this list that's might be kind of odd for some people is at my number 5 spot. It's going to be the Addams Family movie from 1993.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it's quirky. It's one of those things that you have to have a taste for it. It has kind of a very odd, weird kind of vibe. I like it. It's quirky. It's something different. And I grew up with it as a kid, so I really enjoyed it. Coming in at number 4, the 1960 film Psycho. Have fun taking a shower after this one. That one's a classic. This one, I'm going to imagine the next one on number 3 is going to be on both of our lists. The Halloween original from 1978. Yeah, classic. Got to put it on there. Number 2 for me, kind of a more heartwarming one, Nick. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown from 1966. I really enjoy that one, to be honest with you. I like that. A little bit of lighter side for those of you who don't like horror. But for those of you who love a little bit of mischief, not really a Halloween movie per se, but 1991, Silence of the Lambs, man.
That's a great film.
That movie, man, when he does the little like thing and the way he says Clarice, I don't know, something about it just gets me. So that's my list. A big Silence of the Lambs fans. The sequel was actually okay as far as sequels go, but it puts the lotion on its skin and then it gets the hose again, my friend. That's my list.
So number 5 is, again, the original Halloween. Super, super good. Number 4, the original Friday the 13th with Jason. Again, the hockey mask. Just something different. Again, I like fishing, and if you're on the dock at night where the fish are biting, this guy comes out with a machete and just drags you in. No thanks. Number 3, the original Amityville Horror was really, really good. Supernatural, again, it was kind of before its time in terms of some of the special effects and what they were able to accomplish with some of the filming stuff. That one is good. Number 2, kind of recent, but It version 1.
All right.
So, and I say that because I like as a, I don't know what's stereotypical. For me, it's hard to scare me. It really is. Except when I look in the mirror, that's scary all the time. But at the end of it, I took it away from you, I know. But I like it when somebody does something new. So to me, when it came out, yeah, it was just different. I mean, the whole perspective of the storyline was something I just never seen before. So that one is good. And then I have a 1A and 1B. 1A, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and 1B, the Saw series, but only the first 3. And for those, was it been 10, 15 years now since the first Saw was released? So it's been a little bit. But again, something new. I liked the concept. It was a little bit gory. Again, it was just, there was a puzzle there. I liked how all the first three movies really kind of wrapped together. It was kind of fun. So again, just something different. But those would be my top 5 movies. All really good, I think.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for Texas Chainsaw Massacre to be on one of our lists. I think that it, to be honest with you, is more of, I don't say this in a demeaning way, but I think it's more of a city kid film, to be honest with you, because you think about like kind of where it happens a little bit. Like for us, you want to see terrifying, put yourself in a field at night in the middle of North Dakota. You'll hear things that you don't know what the heck they are. Anyway, I digress, Nick. We do have to I kind of stole your transition a little bit here, but I guess I'll jump right into it because I'm going to imagine that I'm probably first in this.
You are.
Okay. Our fun story or interesting story for Halloween time here to finish off the show. Mine is an embarrassing story, so I think you'll get a kick out of this one. So my church, which is about 5 minutes from my house here, they kind of have a little Halloween get-together kind of haunted house because the downstairs basement runs out. The church is built on a hill, so the basement is pretty much built inside the hill. So it's perfect for a haunted house because you can really control the entries, and there's a bunch of rooms with hallways and stuff. It works really nicely. But when you're not in the haunted house and you walk back up to the main part of the church is on the right-hand side, but then in the middle, in between where you enter the basement and where you have your service in the main part of the church, is the dining portion that most churches have. Well, this one has these big windows out overlooking this patio. So, of course, if you can imagine, during Halloween, kids are running about, doing ridiculous things. Well, when they start the haunted house, everybody is in this little interior room, kind of talking, chatting, just whatever. I was 8 years old, and we're all running around in our costumes, and I stopped, and I started staring I was wearing like a Superman costume, so it had a top, had a bottom, and I'm just staring at this window. Kid comes by, grabs my pants. The pants go, the underwear goes.
Oh, man.
250 people, this is pre-COVID, mind you, 250 people, 8 years old, and I am just pantsed with everything out in front of everybody. Yeah. And it's funny because we did have an apparel giveaway, and I have a really close friend that we did end up giving a t-shirt away to. He was actually the kid who pants me. So obviously it ended up well in the end, but yeah, not one of my finer moments, unfortunately.
I've got 2 for you. One that's kind of weird, and the other one that's really funny. So my mother, who sometimes likes to bite more than she can chew, likes to use, at least I should say, likes to use us as like a way to express her creativity. I'll never forget this. I was in 7th grade at Falcon Ridge Middle School in Apple Valley, and every single grade, it was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, had a Halloween costume contest. And this year, my mom decided that I would do really well as the Tin Man. So when I say the Tin Man, I'm not kidding you what I was wearing. We go to Home Depot and we buy an empty trash can, and then we buy actual dryer ducks. I'm not kidding you, like 6 different pieces. And I'm literally wearing 10 in school. I had to get in the trunk of the minivan because I couldn't move. This thing weighed probably 15 to 20 pounds. I ended up only winning 3rd place in 7th grade, which really ticked me off because this thing was super hot. It was heavy. I had an upside down funnel in my head that she painted. It was absolutely awful, and I'm glad you're having the reaction that you had because it was just unbelievably horrific.
That's awesome.
Second story was one where we darn near killed my grandmother, and I mean that like sincerely. So speaking of Michael Myers, this was the follow-up. We have a legitimate Michael Myers full mask. Like, you could not tell the difference if it's movie or ours. And when she was living down here in Apple Valley, it was probably about 10 years ago, she was in an apartment complex maybe 5 minutes away. And so my dad dresses up in the full Carhartt brown get up. He puts on the full mask, and mind you, it's a full slip cover, and he knocks on the door. Well, again, in this apartment complex, she had a little eye, things you could see through. Well, she really, never checked that. So he just stands there in front of the door. So she pulls it open, and I swear to God, I never heard her shriek that loud. She screams, slams the door. Now, granted, my grandmother was, when in her younger years, quite the jokester, quite the practical jokester. So when she did that, and we never really did it back to her because, it's your grandma, we were like, oh, crap, we really got it. Because, she threw that door 300 miles an hour shut. I thought that she took the thing off the frame. 30 seconds later, she opens up the door. She is halfway hunched over, and she's got 3 beers in her hand. And her big thing was she drank beer out of a coffee cup, and she could not stop laughing. She immediately knew what had happened. So she invites my parents, us in, and so she gave my parents 2 beers. We sat and had a couple beers, listened to some old school recorded Halloween music on a record player. It ended up being pretty fun, but for a moment there, we thought that maybe we got a little bit too far because she'd never been the victim of practical jokes. She's always the one giving them out, and yeah, her reaction was almost telling. So those are my 2 stories.
So when is to finish the show, when is the last time you've actually dressed up in a costume? Not for a little get together, but legitimately planned on wearing the costume for the majority of the day?
Oh, that's a good question. Just my normal clothes every day count?
Yeah, well, I know for me, mine's my freshman year of college because we had a team thing where we dressed up. I dressed up as a pirate, and then my go-to costume if I ever have to go out, which of course I'm not going out this year, is kind of I don't know if it's the vaudeville, kind of the 1920s, the guy with the straw hat and the striped suit and that sort of thing, because you can wear your dress pants and your dress clothes and get away with it, and it looks nice too. So it's not over the top by any means, but do you have an idea?
It was
75.
Close. 5-6 years ago. And it was at my buddy's house in north of the Twin Cities. And you just probably maybe 15 or so people there. So not a terribly big thing, but I don't know what drove me to do this, but I found I'm not a person that has a lot of costume ideas. I almost overthink it, but we were at Goodwill and I found a white suit. And I'm like, go to Menards, found some duct tape. And I did black duct tape, and I was Robin Thicke in one of his music videos. Yeah, I just went as Robin Thicke. I bought a cheap pair of gas station sunglasses. It was awful. But
So you had blurred lines, as they say.
After a few beers, I did have blurred lines, yes. So.
Okay, well, we've ran way over time. Look at the time. It is almost time to go kick back and have a brewski on this Halloween Saturday. Of course, we are recording on Friday, but it'll be Saturday when you listen to this, and we'll be back, of course, every Saturday here for the time being until hockey does start on Tuesday, December 1st. Don't forget, next Saturday is also our double minor giveaway. We're going to give away 2 Huskies Warming House podcast t-shirts as well. But that will do it for episode number 35. Say sayonara to Nick Maxon's awesome Minnesota North Stars pumpkin, as well as Nick Maxon himself. For him, I'm Noah Grant, and we'll see you next week.